Charles Zuth sat in the Grand Council chamber, his 4 primary appendages drumming nervously against the smooth surface of the council table. His secondary limbs were tucked neatly against his torso as protocol demanded during formal proceedings. The room buzzed with the anxious chirps and clicks of the 37 council members who represented the Voxan Confederation, the most advanced civilization in the known galaxy. "Are we seriously considering this?" TRZ finally spoke, his voice amplifier pulsing with the distinctive blue glow that indicated frustration. "A preemptive strike against a species that hasn't even achieved consistent interplanetary travel yet?" Supreme Commander Vexlaw, her exoskeleton gleaming under the artificial lighting, fixed her compound eyes on TRZ. "The humans have demonstrated remarkable technological acceleration. Our predictive models show they will achieve faster-than-light capabilities within 20 solar cycles. Once that happens, containment becomes problematic." "Problematic? What an interesting choice of words for genocide," TRZ replied, not bothering to mask the sarcasm in his voice. The Grand Arbiter, Quen Pal, raised a spindly appendage, immediately silencing the chamber. "Prophet Truth, your objections are noted. However, this council's primary directive is to ensure the continued safety and prosperity of the Confederation. The human species has shown concerning traits." Truth snorted, a peculiar habit he had picked up during his extensive observation of Earth. "What concerning traits, exactly? Their fondness for reality entertainment programming? Their bizarre attachment to furry non-sentient companions? Or perhaps it's their remarkable ability to argue about absolutely everything?" Several council members emitted the clicking sounds of disapproval. Such disrespect toward the Grand Arbiter was unusual, even from TRZ Zuth, whose position as chief prophet gave him certain liberties. "Their capacity for violence," Quen Pal responded flatly. "They have spent the majority of their recorded history engaged in conflict with one another. They have weaponized every scientific breakthrough they have ever achieved. Their entertainment glorifies combat. Their economic systems reward aggression. They are, by any objective standard, dangerous." Truth rose to his full height, his skin flushing the deep purple of conviction. "I have studied them for over 60 cycles. Yes, they fight. Yes, they are chaotic and unpredictable, and sometimes terrifyingly brutal. But they are also creative and adaptable and capable of profound compassion. Your fondness for this species has been noted, Prophet," Supreme Commander Vexlaw said with artificial sweetness. "Perhaps your extended observation has led to a certain contamination of objectivity." The council chamber erupted in trilling laughter. Truth felt his secondary respiratory sacs inflate with indignation. "I speak as the chief prophet of the Voxan Confederation," he said, his voice amplifier now pulsing with the crimson light of anger. "My observations are not contaminated. They are complete. Unlike your military assessment, which conveniently overlooks key aspects of human psychology." Science Director Madhu Kryn leaned forward, her sensory tentacles waving with curiosity. "What aspects are these, Prophet?" Truth activated the holographic display embedded in the council table. Images of human history flashed in the air: warfare, yes, but also art, cooperation, innovation, and healing. "Humans possess something I can only describe as a retributive persistence," Truth explained. "If you strike them, they do not simply respond proportionally as a logical species might. They escalate. They remember. They unite against external threats in ways they never managed during peacetime." He paused, making eye contact with each council member. "If you strike them first, they will never stop. Not until they have achieved what they consider justice, or revenge. The distinction often blurs for them." Grand Arbiter Quen Pal's feeding mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "This sounds like emotional reasoning, Prophet. The humans have primitive spacecraft and basic nuclear weaponry. We have a fleet of planet crackers and the most advanced defensive systems in the galaxy. What could they possibly do to us?" "That's exactly the kind of thinking that makes this plan so dangerous," Charles Zuth exclaimed. "You are assuming they will respond conventionally. Humans don't do conventional." The council chamber fell silent as the main doors parted. Fleet Admiral Zaraktan entered, his ceremonial armor reflecting the chamber's lights in dazzling patterns. Even TRZ Zuth felt a flicker of intimidation. Zaracton had commanded the forces that pacified the rebellious Krell systems. 3 planets rendered uninhabitable, billions dead, all because the Krell had refused to accept Voxan mining rights. The attack fleet is prepared, Zaracton announced without preamble. We await only the Council's final authorization. Truth felt his heart sink. The presence of the fleet admiral suggested the decision had already been made, but this council meeting was merely a formality. The prudent course of action is clear, Vexlor said smoothly. A swift, decisive strike. The human homeworld need not be destroyed entirely. A demonstration of our power, the elimination of their major population centers and military installations. They will surrender, and we can guide their development along more acceptable paths. You are making a terrible mistake, Charles Zuth said quietly. At least allow me to present my full findings. Quen Pal made the gesture of reluctant consent. You have one-time unit profit. Charles Zuth quickly connected his neural interface to the chamber's systems. Data streamed directly from his specialized profit implants to the holographic display. The council members watched as scenarios played out, showing potential human responses to various attack strategies. Note how they rally, Charles Zuth narrated. Note how their fractious political systems suddenly align when faced with an existential threat. Note their capacity for asymmetric warfare, for surprising technological leaps under pressure. Vexlor yawned dramatically. Hypotheticals. Your models are contaminated by your obvious affection for these creatures. These aren't models. These are historical records, Truth protested. Every time in their history that a technologically superior force has attacked them, they have eventually prevailed, through sheer stubbornness and creative adaptation. Against other humans, Fleet Admiral Zaracton interjected. Not against the might of the Voxan Confederation. The council members chittered in agreement. Truth looked around the chamber, realizing the futility of his position. The decision for war had already been made. All he could do now was try to minimize the damage. At least make it quick and clean, he said, his voice amplifier dimming to the blue-gray of resignation. If you are determined to attack, destroy their military capabilities but leave their civilian populations intact. Show mercy. It might be the only thing that prevents them from pursuing us to the ends of the galaxy once they eventually recover. Supreme Commander Vexlor made the gesture of magnanimous acceptance. Your concern for these primitives is touching, Prophet. We will consider your recommendation for restraint. The way she said it made it clear she would do no such thing. 3 days later, Truth stood in the observation deck of the Grand Flagship Eternal Dominance, watching as the attack fleet prepared to depart. 200 warships, each capable of reducing a continent to ash. All to eliminate a threat that existed only in the paranoid calculations of the military council. Prophet Charles Zuth, a voice called from behind him. Truth turned to see Luan Vex, a young tactical officer he had mentored years ago. Where else would I be when my civilization commits its greatest error? Luan Vex's sensory appendages flattened in discomfort. Surely it's not as dire as that. The intelligence reports. The intelligence reports are focused entirely on human technology and not at all on human psychology, Truth interrupted. We are poking a hive of unusually intelligent, unusually vindictive insects. But they can't reach us, Luan Vex said, confusion evident in his voice. Even if they somehow survive the initial assault, they have no way to strike back at our worlds. Truth turned back to the viewport, watching as the massive ships began to power their engines. They will find a way. That's what humans do. They solve problems. Especially when they are angry. And we are about to make them very, very angry. The first wave departed with great ceremony. Charles Zuth refused to attend the formal launch, instead retreating to his quarters, where he began preparing a detailed record of his objections. Not that it would matter. History was written by the victors, and the Voxan Confederation expected to be very victorious indeed. 6 days later, the first reports came back. The attack had been launched. Earth's primitive defensive systems had been easily overwhelmed. Major cities were in flames. Military installations had been precisely targeted. Human governments were in disarray. The Grand Council celebrated. Charles Zuth mourned. A toast, Supreme Commander Vexlor declared at the victory banquet. To the continued security of the Confederation. Charles Zuth declined to raise his drinking apparatus. This isn't over, he said quietly. It's barely begun. Vexlor made the gesture of dismissive superiority. Always the pessimist, prophet. Our forces report minimal resistance. The humans are in shock, as expected. We have destroyed their major military installations, their seats of government, their industrial centers. The survivors are scattered and leaderless. And you think that means they are defeated? Charles Zuth asked incredulously. How can someone so intelligent be so profoundly stupid? The room fell silent at the insult. Even with his special status, there were limits to what a prophet could say to a supreme commander. Fleet Admiral Zaracton stepped between them. The prophet speaks from emotional attachment, not reason. Our victory is absolute. The human threat has been neutralized. Now we can begin the process of guiding their reconstruction along acceptable lines. Acceptable lines, Charles Zuth repeated, his voice amplifier flashing with bursts of crimson outrage. You have killed hundreds of millions of their people. You have reduced their civilization to rubble, and you think they are going to accept your guidance? They have no choice, Zaracton replied coldly. They are beaten. Truth looked around the banquet hall at the celebrating council members and military officers. None of them understood. None of them had truly studied humans as he had. You don't understand what you have created, he said quietly. Every survivor is now dedicated to one purpose, making you pay. Every human child born from this day forward will learn to hate us before they learn anything else. You haven't ended a threat. You have created an enemy that will never, ever stop. We're practically in the Stone Age compared to us. Charles Zuth, reinstated as advisor though not restored to his prophet rank, allowed himself a small moment of vindication. They are adapting using our own technology against us, learning our weaknesses. Science Director Madhu Kryn projected a holographic display showing the latest intelligence. The humans have reverse-engineered components from our downed vessels. They have created hybrid weapons systems that our standard countermeasures don't recognize. Impossible, Zaracton declared, though with notably less conviction than he had shown a year earlier. No species could master our technology so quickly. Necessity drives innovation, Charles Zu observed, and humans are very, very motivated. The holographic display shifted to show footage captured by Voxan security drones. Human resistance fighters moved with surprising coordination, using what appeared to be modified Voxan energy weapons. More disturbing were the crude but effective armored suits they wore, clearly inspired by Voxan battle armor, but built with local materials. This is from 3 days ago, Madhu Kryn explained. A raid on our primary command center in the region they call Europe. 28 security personnel lost, critical data stolen. Grand Arbiter Quen Pal, who had remained silent until now, leaned forward. What kind of data? Madhu Kryn's sensory appendages twisted in what the council members recognized as extreme discomfort. Navigation charts, communication protocols, and partial schematics for our jump drive technology. Mason, the chamber erupted in alarm trills and human resistance begins. Click's jump drive technology was the cornerstone of Voxan interstellar supremacy. If the humans mastered it, how many occupation vessels remain in the Earth system? Quen Pal asked. 86 combat-capable ships, Zaracton replied, but we are stretched thin. The humans have established bases throughout their system, on their moon, on Mars, among the asteroids. We can't locate them all, and our ground forces. EXOR made the gesture of reluctant admission, effectively contained to 12 major security zones we control. Less than 8% of the planet's surface, and even within those zones resistance activity is persistent. Charles Zuth noted how carefully she avoided saying increasing. The reality was far worse than the Supreme Commander was willing to admit. Perhaps, Quen suggested, it is time to consider the prophet's recommendation. All eyes turned to Troll Zu. Withdrawal. Troll Zu said simply, complete and immediate. Before this gets worse. Zaracton sputtered. How could it possibly get worse? As if an answer, an aide rushed into the chamber. A breach of protocol so severe that everyone fell silent. Urgent communication from Fleet Base Nexus 7. The aide announced, his voice amplifier pulsing with the white light of extreme alarm. Nexus 7, the massive space station orbiting Voxan Prime, itself the heart of the Confederation's Defense Network. The holographic display changed to show the station commander, his exoskeleton scorched and damaged. Behind him warning lights flashed and Voxan personnel rushed in obvious panic. "We are under attack," the commander reported, his voice crackling with interference. "Unknown vessels, unfamiliar configuration." They appeared without warning. "Our external sensors, they didn't detect anything until the first shots were fired." "Impossible," Zarek exclaimed. "No ship could approach Nexus 7 undetected." "These did," the commander replied grimly. "They are using some kind of modified jump technology, micro jumps. They appear, fire, disappear before we can lock weapons. Our shields are failing. We have lost 3 defense platforms already." The council watched in horror as the feed briefly showed one of the attacking vessels, a hybrid monstrosity that combined Voxan technology with crude but effective human engineering. It bristled with weapons, some Voxan, some clearly of human design. "This is a direct violation of all rules of warfare," Vexler exclaimed. "They are attacking our home world." Truth couldn't help but laugh, a harsh barking sound that drew stares from everyone present. "Rules of warfare? You decimated their planet without warning. What rules were you following then?" Before anyone could respond, the station commander's voice became urgent. "They have breached the main hangar boarding parties. They are." The feed cut to static, and for several moments no one spoke. The implications were too enormous, too terrifying to process immediately. "How did they reach Voxan Prime?" Quen Pal finally asked, his voice unnaturally calm. "The distance, without proper jump drive technology. They have been salvaging our technology for 18 months," Charles pointed out, "capturing our ships, interrogating our personnel, learning everything they could." "What did you expect?" "Not this," Dexlaw whispered. "Not so soon." The next few hours brought more alarming reports. 3 orbital defense platforms around Voxan Prime had gone silent. 2 military outposts on the planet's surface reported attacks by unknown forces. Then, most disturbing of all, a transmission reached the Grand Council chamber on a secure channel that only the highest levels of Voxan leadership should have had access to. The holographic display showed a human female. Her face bore scars and her eyes, alien losses mount, held the hard look of someone who had seen too much death. She wore what appeared to be a modified Voxan commander's uniform, altered to fit human physiology. "My name is Admiral Petra Novak," she announced without preamble. "I speak for the United Earth Resistance Command. Your occupation of Earth ends today." Fleet Admiral Zarek stepped forward. "This is Fleet Admiral Zarek of the Voxan Confederation. Your attack on our home world is an act of war that will bring consequences beyond your comprehension." The human's face showed no reaction. "We didn't start this war, Admiral. You did. When you attacked Earth, you made a critical miscalculation. You thought superior technology would guarantee victory. You were wrong. What do you want, Grand Arbiter?" Quen Pal asked, stepping into view. "Unconditional withdrawal of all Voxan forces from Earth and its solar system within 72 hours," Novak replied. "Preparations for the damage inflicted on our world and guarantees enforced by a new reality. Earth is now capable of striking Voxan Prime at will." "Remember that the transmission ended abruptly." Preposterous, Zarek exploded. "We cannot negotiate with primitives. This attack on Nexus 7 must be an isolated incident. A single ship that got lucky. Luck had nothing to do with it," Charles said quietly. "They have been planning this from the moment you attacked. Everything, the hit and run tactics, the apparent retreat from certain areas, the specific targets they chose to raid, it was all preparation for this moment." "What do you suggest we do, Prophet?" Quen Pal asked, using Truth's former title in what seemed like a gesture of respect. "Exactly what she demanded," Truth replied without hesitation. "Withdraw, make reparations, and hope they are feeling more merciful than we were." The emergency session of the Grand Council lasted 20 more hours. Reports continued to arrive. More attacks on Vox and outposts, not just around Voxan Prime but in 3 other star systems. The humans had somehow managed to launch a coordinated offensive against multiple Voxan installations simultaneously. "How many ships could they possibly have constructed?" Vexler demanded, reviewing the latest intelligence. "Not many," Madhu Kryn admitted. "Perhaps a dozen, but they are using them with devastating efficiency. They strike then jump away before we can respond. Our defensive algorithms are designed to detect and counter conventional attacks. These micro-jumps, they exploit a fundamental flaw in our approach." Truth listened with grim satisfaction. This was exactly what he had predicted, humans finding creative solutions to seemingly insurmountable problems. "The 72-hour deadline expires in 18 hours. Quenpel noted, "We must reach a decision in the end." The vote was close but clear. 21 council members in favor of accepting the human terms, 16 opposed. The Voxan Confederation would withdraw from Earth. The formal acceptance was transmitted on all frequencies. Within hours, the attacks on Voxan installations ceased. The human vessels disappeared as suddenly as they had arrived. Trezor was appointed chief negotiator for the withdrawal process. Given his unique understanding of human psychology, he traveled to Earth aboard an unarmed diplomatic vessel, landing at one of the few Voxan-controlled spaceports still functioning. The human delegation that met him was led by Admiral Novak herself. Up close, Truth could see that her scars were even more extensive than they had appeared in the transmission Prophet Truth. She greeted him, surprising him with her knowledge of his name and former title. "Your reputation precedes you." "Oh," he replied, curious. "Some of your research on human psychology was recovered from a Voxan command post we raided last year." She explained. "Your assessment of our, what did you call it, retributive persistence, it was quite accurate, I wish." "Human counterattack." "My people had listened," Charles said sincerely. "Some of your captive officers mentioned a lone voice of opposition in the Voxan leadership." Novak continued, "I assume that was you." Truth made the gesture of modest acknowledgement. "I advocated for peaceful contact. I was overruled." Novak nodded. "That information may prove valuable during the negotiations. Not all humans are calling for the complete destruction of the Voxan civilization. Some of us recognize the possibility of eventual coexistence." The negotiations were tense but productive. The Voxan forces would withdraw according to a carefully orchestrated schedule. Certain technologies would be left behind as part of the reparations package. Only a demilitarized zone would be established at the edge of the solar system, monitored by both parties. As the formal sessions concluded, Admiral Novak took Charles Zuth on a tour of what had once been a major human city. The devastation was still evident, though remarkable progress had been made in clearing rubble and beginning reconstruction. "You should know," Novak said as they walked through the ruins, "that there was serious debate about whether to attack Vox and Prime directly with our new weapons. Many wanted to do to your home world what you did to ours." "Why didn't you?" Truth asked, genuinely curious. "Because that would make us no better than the Vox and leadership that ordered the attack on Earth," she replied, "and because some of us recognize that your entire civilization shouldn't be held accountable for the decisions of your military council." Charles Zuth felt a profound respect for this scarred human warrior, who despite everything she had suffered still maintained principles that many of his own people had abandoned. "There will be elements in my government who won't honor this agreement," he warned her, "who will want to rebuild our forces and try again." "We know," she said simply, "just as there are humans who will never forgive, never accept anything short of your complete destruction. That's why the treaty includes provisions for ongoing communication and transparency." "And the jump-capable warships you built?" Truth inquired. Novak smiled grimly. "They remain active, along with the others currently under construction." Trust takes time to build. Prophet, especially after what happened on his final day on Earth before returning to oversee the withdrawal of Voxan forces. Charles Zuth visited a makeshift memorial that had been erected in what had once been a public park. Simple stones bore the names of the dead, millions upon millions of names, far too many to read in a lifetime. A small human child approached him, looking up with curious eyes. Truth tensed, uncertain how a young human would react to one of the beings responsible for such devastation. "Are you really an alien?" the child asked. "Yes," Truth replied, his translator converting his clicks and trills into human speech. "My mom says not all aliens are bad." The child said thoughtfully, "that some try to stop the bad ones from hurting us." "Your mother is wise," Troll Zeus replied, deeply moved. "Some of us did try. We failed. I failed. But you are helping now, right?" The child persisted. "You are making the bad ones leave." "Yes," Truth confirmed, "they are leaving." The child nodded, seemingly satisfied, then pointed to the memorial. "My dad's name is there, and my sister's. Will they come back when the bad aliens leave?" Truth felt a sensation he had never experienced before, a profound aching sorrow that seemed to emanate from all four of his hearts simultaneously. "No, little one, I'm sorry. When humans die, they don't come back. Negotiations begin." "No," the child said with surprising composure. "Mom told me," she said, "we have to remember them by being good people, by not becoming like the bad aliens." As the child walked away, Truth reflected on the remarkable capacity of humans for both violence and mercy, destruction and creation, hatred and forgiveness. It was this complexity, this contradiction, that had first drawn him to study them, and it was this same complexity that might against all odds allow for some form of peaceful coexistence in the future. 5 years later, Trolls stood on the observation deck of the newly established Joint Monitoring Station at the edge of the solar system. Half the station was staffed by humans, the other half by Voxans, a precarious but functioning arrangement. The latest reports from the diplomatic mission on Earth are encouraging, his aide reported. Cultural exchange programs are expanding, trade negotiations have begun, and the political situation on Voxan Prime. Truth asked, "The new government continues to solidify its position?" The aide replied, "And the trial of the former military council members is proceeding according to law. Public opinion remains firmly against any talk of renewed conflict with Earth." Truth nodded in satisfaction. The coup that had removed the old Grand Council had been surprisingly bloodless. The Voxan population, shocked by the human counterattack and the revelations of how the war had begun, had overwhelmingly supported the reformist faction. The human officer approached, offering the Voxan gesture of respectful greeting, a diplomatic courtesy that was becoming more common. "Prophet Truth," she said, "the Earth delegation for the Technology exchange program has arrived. They are requesting your presence at the welcome ceremony. Of course, Troll Zuth replied, following her down the corridor. Have the legal documents been prepared? Yes, Prophet. The patent sharing agreement is ready for final review. The human inventors are particularly interested in meeting you. Your reputation as the one who understood carries significant weight. As Charles Zhu entered the station's conference room, he saw a diverse group of humans engaged in animated conversation with their Voxan counterparts, scientists, engineers, diplomats, all working together to build something new from the ashes of conflict. One elderly human approached him, extending a hand in the human greeting custom that Troll Zhu had. Resolution and aftermath. Learned to reciprocate. Prophet. Truth, the human said warmly. Your writings on interspecies understanding were instrumental in convincing our government to support this initiative. Your insight that peace must be built on truth, not power, resonated deeply with many of us. Thank you. Truth replied, feeling a sense of purpose he had thought lost forever during the dark days of the war, but the path forward was charted by humans as much as by my people. Your capacity for forgiveness, however cautious and conditional, is nothing short of remarkable. Not forgiveness, the human corrected gently, understanding. You were right. You know, when humans are struck we strike back, but you were also right about something else. We are capable of profound compassion and creativity. Those qualities can coexist with our capacity for our retributive persistence. As the ceremony began, trolls reflected on how perilously close both civilizations had come to mutual destruction, all because of fear, arrogance, and the failure to truly understand the other. The journey ahead would be long. Trust would take generations to build, but standing there watching humans and Voxans cautiously but genuinely working together, Zhu allowed himself to hope for a future neither species could have imagined. Before their violent collision, one forged in fire, but sustained by something stronger than fear, and if that future came to pass, perhaps the terrible cost might in some small way be redeemed.